I'm Karen Bufka from the League of Women Voters in the Northeast Kingdom. We're here at Kingdom Access TV recording 3 different interviews of 3 candidates who are running for 2 one-year seats on the St. Johnsbury Select Board. Since this is the only contested race on the St. Johnsbury ballot for town meeting day, we thought it would be helpful to give you an opportunity to hear directly from these candidates. We're asking them the exact same list of questions so that you can compare and figure out who you think would best serve St. Johnsbury as a select person for the next year. So please enjoy the videos and please contact the candidates if you have any questions for them. Thank you. I'm here today with Brandon Hughes, who is running for a 1-year term as select person here in St. Johnsbury. I'm going to ask him some questions so that you have the opportunity to hear from him and get to know him a bit before you cast your vote on March 5th, or if you vote earlier. I will be interviewing all 3 of the candidates in the one contested race on St. Johnsbury's ballot for 2 one-year seats on the St. Johnsbury Select Board, so that you will have the opportunity to hear from all of them on exactly the same questions. The other 2 candidates are Dennis Smith and Mitchell Jones, so look for their interviews too. Just a brief word about the League of Women Voters. We are a national, nonpartisan volunteer organization open to all genders, which has been helping our democracy to work better since 1920 by encouraging the informed and active participation of citizens in government. If you think you might be interested in helping us do what we do here in the Northeast Kingdom, please contact us. Now, I'm just going to briefly read from the handbook for select boards from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns Municipal Assistance Center. Just so we know what we're talking about, what job Brendan is potentially asking us to vote for him to do. So select persons, there's either 3 or 5 select persons who serve overlapping terms of between 1 and 3 years. Now here in St. Johnsbury, we have 5 select persons on our board. Select persons are responsible for general supervision of the affairs of town and must cause to be performed all duties required of the town not committed by law to the care of any particular officer. The Select Board may enact ordinances and rules in many areas, including traffic regulation, regulating nuisances, managing solid waste, dogs and recreation, and establishing bike paths. The Select Board warns all town meetings and specifies business to be conducted at the meeting, including proposing an annual budget. So there's a long list of Select Board duties, but basically it is everything that has to do with helping our town to function that is not specified to a particular officer like the treasurer or the town clerk, which in this case happens to be both the same person. So at any rate, so I'm very glad that Brendan is here to give you a chance to get to know him before you cast your vote. So thank you, Brendan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
Oh, great. So let's jump into our questions.
Perfect.
What inspired you to step up to serve our community here in St. Johnsbury in this way?
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised here, right in St. Johnsbury. So when I was growing up, I always wanted to come back, and it was mostly driven by the fact that I wanted to create jobs and economic development here. Whatever capacity that was, I wasn't really sure at that moment, but what it turned out to be is I started St. Johnsbury Distillery, and then I came back to work for my alma mater, the St. Johnsbury Academy. So through those kind of outlets, I thought this would be a great opportunity, not only to help the town being a select person, but definitely to have my say, and especially for my demographic of being younger. I think that is a very good voice to have in that kind of role, so you can kind of monitor the growth that should happen here in St. Johnsbury. And a part of that, I always wanted to help with kind of the economic development here anyways. So really being in the forefront, leading by example of kind of showing how the town can grow later on in the short term as well as the long term.
Great. What experience do you have that is relevant to doing the work of a member of the Select Board?
Yeah, so being a president and co-founder of a company helps me with kind of like short-term and long-term goals and meeting those goals. And I think that translates well within the government sector anyways, because it's really centered about how to get to point B from point A and what goes in between those. So really being strategic and having that strategic planning, I think is very important. And I get that kind of experience from the role that I am in St. Johnsbury Distillery. And in addition, I'm also on the board of directors for the St. Johnsbury Chamber of Commerce. And with that, they have a really good relationship with the town. in town government. So being able to have that communication piece, I think translates well. I'm already kind of within that role of really working with the people, knowing the names, getting the contacts, and I think it would translate well into a select person.
So that's life experience. Please describe the personal qualities and skills you feel you could bring to serving the community of St. Johnsbury on its select board.
Yeah, so kind of mimicking what I said before, but definitely that economic piece. So really knowing the business side as well as knowing the language for government too. So being that liaison between those two communication pieces, because especially it's a hard time when you have a person who's solely in the role of being a business person. It's hard to translate what they really want to say to like the government sector. So being able to translate those pieces well to really understand both sides of it, so both the business side as well as the government side, to really communicate well between the two and have that seamless transition, I think is very important. But in addition to that, I am really centered around data driven. So I actually had the liberty of working with the town of South Bend in Indiana when I was over there for my master's, and really centered around data analytics and looking at how we can take data within the town and then translate into analytic-wise of what it would look like if you added more street lamps here and how that would affect crime rates or accidents for cars and things like that. So it was really interesting to kind of see that side, and I hope to bring that with me if I become a select person.
So, thank you. So those are skills. And what about equality?
Oh, really caring and communication-wise, like caring for people. Okay. I think I'm really good at really building relationships and maintaining those relationships, and really just being motivated is also a key factor of mine, that I can't really sit still, so I always want to keep working harder and harder and accomplishing goals too. So I think between those two, either building relationships and being really motivated, I think is really important.
Thank you. So you've already pointed to something which answers the next question a little bit, but let's go a little more in depth on that if you want. Is there anything you have learned from other communities, either positive or negative, which will inform your perspective as a member of the Select Board about how best to handle challenges, but also move St. J forward?
Yeah, so definitely when I was there working with the city of South Bend, it was a really eye-opening experience of seeing how they want to better their own kind of community there, and how they were willing to work with students and other people who were going to take that data and kind of analyze it and present it to them. I think was very cool, especially in their relationship. So mostly they were kind of looking at crime rates as well as car accidents. So that's why I was using those two as examples. But basically taking different pieces of data and showing where the most accidents happen or where the most crime rates are, and then how that reflects what you can do in those areas. So whether it's more patrols for the police department or putting in the street lamp, so making it more lit during the night, things like that, and how it would affect it later on, so either 3 or 10 years down the line. And I think that was really helpful for that kind of instance. And translating it back to here in St. Johnsbury, we are without our faults here, but really understanding how we can improve and build upon those. I think we can take those relationships back from what I learned in South Bend, is that you can look at the problems that you have, connect it with data, and then be able to solve those later on for all the community members who are here.
Okay, great. How will you use this opportunity as an elected leader to build community? Do you have a sense of how you might be able to inspire our neighbors here in St. Johnsbury to participate in building community too?
Mm-hmm. One of my biggest reasons I wanted to move back is I was constantly hearing from like my classmates when I was going to St. Johnsbury Academy, and how everyone was so eager to leave St. Johnsbury, never wanted to come back, and it had the kind of like that bad persona, especially when you're a kid. But my always example or kind of answer to that is, well, do something about it. And I think that is how I kind of motivate others around me, is that I definitely take the lead role and lead by example. So being here, starting my own business, recruiting people who I've met along the years. So we've already hired 2 full-time employees and 6 part-time employees, all around our kind of same demographic who moved back here for this job too. So I think that's kind of where it kind of lies, is definitely leading by example and being there in the forefront, helping with the economics in the area. Because it's hard to say that if you're not motivated or you don't have, or not to follow someone when you're right there doing it with them. So I think that's kind of the best piece.
And how would that shift gears a little bit, taking it into the realm of elected leadership as opposed to business leadership?
Yeah, so definitely knowing those two sides, so having that same rhetoric that you can kind of translate to both sides and help each side out, I think is kind of the key point that I would hopefully take into being a select person. So really being able to hear what the government has to say and then translate it to the businesses to be like, well, it is important to cut down costs, but we have to make sure that your land is environmentally safe and all these things. So being able to be that liaison to kind of communicate well between the two, I think that would definitely be helpful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for teasing that out for me, because
Yeah.
I heard what you said, and yet when the second time you said it, it was clearer, that sense of translating.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Because a lot of things can be misunderstood between that kind of conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are slightly different perspectives and how to bring the, eye on the goal from, just like we see with bifocal vision. We see one thing, but it's two different things
Yeah,
that sees
exactly.
it. So how to do that.
Yeah, and definitely having the government input too is like, obviously everyone in St. Johnsbury wants to help, and the town's been very helpful for not only our company but all companies around. So keeping that relationship up and really being motivated to start new businesses, start more career-driven jobs here in this area.
Oh, well, sounds good. I feel like this area has so much to offer, and it's
Yeah.
just about stepping it forward a little bit, like you're doing. Okay, great. Oh, well, thank you so much. So please vote on Town Meeting Day, everyone. Town Meeting Day is March 5th. St. Johnsbury's information meeting is the night before, March 4th, Monday at 7:30. Both are at the St. Johnsbury School. Now, voting on March 5th is from 10 to 7, but you can also vote very easily early or absentee. It's really easy. You can either stop by the town clerk's office, you can go to the My Voter page on the Secretary of State's website, and you can, St. Johnsbury as a town is really doing its best to help us find our way as voters easily. There's a link now on the St. Johnsbury website for both absentee ballots and registration, which will take you exactly to the place you need to go to request an absentee ballot or to start registering online or find your way here to the town clerk's office. So in order to vote, of course, you have to be registered, but Vermont is making it so easy. You can actually, if you don't get organized and register before March 5th, you can vote. You can just show up and register and vote the same day on March 5th. So you can check your registration status on the My Voter page on the Secretary of State's website, or ask Stacy Jewell and her team at the town clerk's office. You can register online, you can register with the town clerk. Once again, you can vote. Even if you haven't registered before March 5th, you can just go to the polls at the St. Johnsbury School and register and vote right then on Tuesday, March 5th. So do it, please.
Yeah,
everybody's making it as easy as possible, and the reason is because we know that everybody, the more voices, the better our community will reflect, everyone in our community. So please do participate. When we have everyone's voice, we'll be a stronger community. If you have questions for Brandon, he's willing to answer them, so we'll have some contact information for him that, please do ask. Have questions or find out more about him or whatever.
Yes,
we're doing
please.
this.
Whether it's personally or things about the town or business in general, I would love to talk to you.
Yeah. So, if you have any questions about the League of Women Voters, feel free to contact me or to check on our state or national websites. So thank you again, Brenda.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great.
Take care.